This road is rough. This road is rough.
The brother-sister plays in all are The Brother Size, In the Red and Brown, and Marcus or the Secret of Sweet. The Brother Size was written first, but it happens chronologically second in the scheme of the trilogy / triptych, depending on what you want to call it. And they were written very quickly, actually, in the course of about 3 years, 2.5 years, when I was at the Yale School of Drama, and which is in Connecticut. And I was in the MFA playwriting program. The first play, Brother Size, which is the one that we did last year, that will be coming back to the Young Vic, is about two brothers, their family, their life together. It's basically about the bond of brotherhood.
This road is rough. Yeah, this road is rough. This road is rough.
I first came in contact with the Brothers Size through Nina Steiger, who is literary manager at Soho Theatre. And I'd done a couple of productions there. And she sent me the play and said it's one of the best plays that had come on her desk. And that was in 2006. And Tarell was coming over to do a workshop on the play, and I was asked to direct it. And we did a week's work that summer with 3 actors. And then the Soho weren't sure about producing it. So I sent the play to David Lan at the Young Vic, and simultaneously Peter Brook had sent a copy to him because Tarell had already worked with Peter Brook. So the play landed on David's desk from 2 angles, and I got a call a few weeks later just saying how much he loved it, and I was thrilled then to be asked to direct it.
Using a lot of polyrhythms that I was learning about the Yoruba cosmology and the way the Yoruba cosmology works in theater, I began to write this play, which has 3 men all speaking very rhythmically throughout. Some of the pieces written in verse, some of it in prose, just to display that rhythm. And for those of us who don't know about the Yoruba cosmology, it's a West African cosmology that lives in the Americas via the slave trade. And it lives in places like the Caribbean, lives in the South a lot, in things like Santeria and Voodoo and Condomblé, but it also lives in the way we praise and worship in the Southern Baptist Church. It lives in our speech patterns. And those retentions were really interesting to me. And so I thought if I'm going to continue, the idea was to continue to create a theater for the people, written for people, about the people, then it would need those elements. It would need to be layered with all of the rich history that we walk around with every day. And I didn't want us to leave all of that heritage at the door of the theater, the threshold of the theater. I wanted us to bring it in and let it infuse the theater in a new way. So that was the main aim with these plays, to try and see how accessible I can make the theater for people who feel like they aren't welcome to the theater at all the time. That sometimes come into the theater and see plays about kings and queens and people from Russia and feel like the theater isn't for them.
You scared? Scared. I know you are. Dog. But I'm here. In the dark. I come for you like I always do. And that night hour, when you know nobody else around, that will come down. Same for you.
I was most struck when I first read the play by its energy and its musicality and the drive of the story. It's relentless, and yet it has so many different textures and colours to it. And the writing, the quality of the writing, the quality of the storytelling, it's economic, and yet it's also really deep and profound as well. It's sophisticated without being intellectual.
He gonna ask for my brother, I'm gonna say I ain't got none. He gonna say there 2 sides, I'm gonna say nah, just one, only one. I'm gonna deny you. Up to 3 times, that's all I can take. That's how many times I can do it. Don't cry when you hear about it. Don't think I don't know you. Don't believe it, hear me. You here with me.
The actors in our play are really good. The three of them are kind of extraordinary, and each one of them is very, very much like the characters they're playing, but has a way of being generous to that character without, grandstanding or trying to draw the play onto themselves. They could. Every one of the characters is so rich that they could make the play all about them, but they know the story is much more strong. The story is much more incredible. And I think a part of what's happening is that they're keeping these rhythms alive, basically because Bijan has sort of allowed them to get together and do that, but also because he's brought in percussion for them to help work with them. He's brought in the music and given them a lot of freedom. You know, he's emptied the space, and with that freedom comes a great responsibility, because it's just them and the drummer. Just the four of them in the space at all times. There's nothing else for us to sort of eye candy about except for the beautiful, extremely athletic bodies and choreography roaming around the space and the drums. And so that invigorates us, because when they have to when they tell us about the play, when they say we're at the car shop, when they say here's a car, when they say the sky is blue, we have to imagine that with them. And that imagination, when we imagine with them, for a moment we are all having an act of faith together. And that's the most important part of theater, is that for a moment, when else does an audience get together with strangers they don't know, and people they don't know to the left and right of them, and then imagine as one. Sit down and create a world around these actors who are guiding them as one. And it's only happening here and here, not on a TV screen. It's happening in the live space. And when do we do that? We rarely do that nowadays. There's few times during our week that we sit down with a group of other people, especially people we don't know, and journey together in imagination. That type of play we did with our next door neighbors when we were kids. And that's the beauty of this play, is that for a moment, these actors are guiding you through a world you may have never gone to, but your mind, your hearts is painting the pictures, is setting the scene.
Don't let them put you back in there, man. I want to know you still my brother somewhere, anywhere in the world. You still my brother. Out there, you will still be a size, a juicy size, brother to old Boone.